Well, it looks like news surfaced again about Jimmy Hoffa. They're searching for him, Jimmy Hoffa, for the last 40 years. And I'm going to comment a couple little twists on this because, I swear to God, there's a couple other twists I'm going to give you on this. But first off, it's going to say this. I swear to God, it's almost like the mob said to the authorities, "You're not going to find him." And the authorities are like saying, "Yes, we will. Yes, we will." It's almost like a point of honor. It isn't even doesn't even matter. The guy, he would have been dead of old age by now. You know what I mean? But I think they're really wasting their time on this. But it always hits the news all the time. Federal agents searching the body of former Teamster Jimmy Hoffa believe they're about to crack one of America's biggest unsolved mysteries. Now, I heard he was under the Meadowlands Sports Arena. That was the joke back then. It was all kinds of stuff. And every once in a while they come up with some new story. They might have found him. Now, the guy that they said ordered to hit on him was Tony Provenzano. That's him here. Now, actually, I went to school with his daughter, Josephine. Now, she wouldn't remember me because I wasn't so famous and she was more famous than me, But at the time, we never even knew anything. He was just knew Tony Pro was in the Teamsters and he got in trouble for some kind of BS. None of this Jimmy Hoffa stuff was even surfaced back then, It was a while ago. And actually, she became head of the Teamsters for a while. But, it's like the government is so weird. They really are. Because they were following her around like she was in a mob, and she wasn't at all. It was like stupid. I mean, I don't. It's like they gotta have a reason to justify their paycheck. You know what I'm talking about? So I guess hey, we got the dig on here. We're gonna find Jimmy Hoffa. We're doing our job, so that's what we got our check for. I think that's what the deal is sometimes, or it's actually a point of honor. It's like the mob said, we bury Jimmy Hoffa. You're not gonna ever find him again, because he's disappeared. Nobody's going to talk. And it's like it's almost like, a pissing contest between a government and a mob. It's almost like, oh yeah, we'll find him. It's like a waste, really. He's dead. That's quite obvious. If he didn't die then, and he's probably dead of old age, even if he went to the other side of the world and was living in Tibet. You know what I mean? But anyway, supposedly it was, I heard it was Tony Provenzano. It's so famous. It's a famous story now. But I did go to school with his daughter, but I'm sure she don't remember me. I wasn't too famous. But anyway, I want to point something else out here, because I think there's one guy that did a lot of covering up. And we got the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, but what about the disappearance of the American the guys that fought in Vietnam, RGIs that were POWs and MIAs? That Senator McCain basically blocked. I'm going to tell you this, maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to get into great detail about this, but I used to read, decades ago, back when the POW issue was still more alive, about how much Senator McCain actually blocked a lot of what was going on as far as investigating POWs that were held in Vietnam. And a lot of the stories came out from Michael Bench, a former POW. Used to read his articles all the time. This guy, I get super pissed off every time I see a very religious conservative person get behind this McCain guy like, oh, he's a good staunch Republican conservative, and I'm thinking he's evil. No, because I came up with this story. I came up with this thing, and I was looking at this thing with Jimmy Hoffa. They're looking for Jimmy Hoffa. The government's wasting all its time looking for Jimmy Hoffa. He's dead, right? He's dead. In the meantime, how much did we cover up on American POWs? And a hell of a lot of POWs, people that fought for our country. And this guy, I'm going to tell you flat out, it's hands down, this guy's blocked a lot of it. And the accusation and the thing is that it was over like normalizing relations with Vietnam again, so there'd be like condos on a beach where a lot of people could sell timeshares. Nike can get in there and sell shoes and stuff like that, because without normalizing relations with Vietnam over the POW issue, missing persons, then guess what? Guess what? No deal, no contracts, right? And this guy, he's the guy, that started the fire on the USS Forrestal, the USS Forest fire with his hotshot thing, and they had to take him off the freaking ship, you know? And because the sailors probably would have killed him right there. His daddy's the one that freaking told the planes to go back that were ready to defend the USS Liberty back on 1967, June 8th, when Israel attacked it. And by the way, I ain't anti-Semitic, but maybe I'm more pro-Israel than the average American. But I think if Israel needed to they had a problem with Egypt, or they got a problem with Iran today, no need to actually play some kind of game where somehow America gets tacked and you get blamed on the other guys. If they need to get whacked because they're a problem, no problem. I think just Israel just got to say, hey, we need some help. These guys are a threat to us, and we'll whack them. If the Iranians need to get whacked, they get whacked. That's it. They're done. And the regime of the belly dancers goes back in there. We get rid of the religious kooks. That's the way I look at it. You don't need to be playing no games. But McCain's daddy, they talk about the mafia being so bad. But you know what? This McCain guy, I think he's worst. I think he's worst. You know what? I got freaking way more respect for this guy than I ever do for this guy. I'm serious. Serious. And it doesn't make me... this guy, he's like a hero, McCain, I'm a good guy, Bullshit. Bullshit. But I'll tell you one thing. It's almost like the government has to have an excuse to exist. So it's like, let's find Jimmy Hoffa. Oh, we got a new thing out there. We got a new dragon to slay or some garbage, It's like if they didn't have guys like this, Tony Provenzano or whatever... they wouldn't exist. But the biggest criminals are right here. Right here. With the going to church and got all the freaking people behind them that are all conservatives and staunch, upright citizens and stuff. And he's got them fooled. He's got them fooled. And I can't believe, I'm sure it's a well-hidden secret, but there's something wrong with the whole situation with this guy. I know he was a former POW, but something's wrong with the whole deal with this guy, big time. The government always freaking concentrates on the mafia, but I'm beginning to wonder who the hell the real criminals are. It's the guys with the clean freaking suits, and they don't have the Italian name. McCain, that's not an Italian name, and he certainly isn't Jewish. And good thing he's not Jewish, because people will be already saying, oh, he's Jewish, that's why. But he's not Jewish. The point is, he'll sell you down the freaking river in 2 seconds flat. And I got a big sneaking suspicion somehow his treatment as a POW was different from the other POWs. It must have been. It must have been. Something doesn't smell right with the whole deal with this guy. Big time. And I've been following POWs, because I thought of, when I made this association, because when I was looking at this story about Jimmy Hoffa, and being from New Jersey, and I was familiar with Jimmy Hoffa from many years ago and all that stuff. And I could tell you, actually, I'm supposedly related to Robert Vesco, big famous name around that time too. And supposedly family was keeping in touch with him for a long time. I don't know. That's what I've been told anyway. But the thing is, I look at this, and they're looking for this Jimmy Hoffa, Jimmy Hoffa, Jimmy Hoffa. Well, you know what? The mob killed him, right? He's dead. In the case of POWs, you knew a lot of them are alive. And who's been covering that shit up for 18 years? This guy, because he was the head of the POW committee. And considering all the shit that went on with him with the USS Forrestal, the USS Forest fire with him hot shotting, with the plane, so he started a fire and they had to take him off the ship because the sailors would have killed his ass because of all the damage it caused him being a hot shot. And his daddy freaking telling the planes to go back, not to attack, defend the USS Liberty, and knock back the planes that coming from Israel attacking the USS Liberty. This guy's a weasel, man. This guy's a weasel. I mean, to the max. And it's like, you think this guy's the mafia? This guy is worst, 100 times worst, and he's still sitting in there as a senator, and he might be your next president someday. So, and it's like I'm pro-Israel too, but the thing is, you don't need to be attacking no ships. I don't know who pulled that crap out of their ass, basically, with the USS Liberty being attacked, so Egypt would get attacked by the United States and all this kind of garbage. It was a stupid plan. The thing is, if you need Egypt attacked, just ask. Just ask. They'll get attacked. That's all there is to it. Don't need to be playing no games, because there's usually plenty of reason to attack them otherwise without even freaking playing any other kind of underhanded games. That's just how I see it. So, but, I think about the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. I think about the disappearance of all our POWs and MIAs that were in Vietnam, and the guy that was responsible for freaking basically burying them under and selling them out. So, and yet we got to waste all our time and government money looking for a guy called Jimmy Hoffa. We know he's dead. We don't know everything there is to know about the Americans that were left behind.